And I guess it seems for like however long the internet exists and for how many news stories you see about certain things, older people will, not change as time goes on. Because that was proven in this whole story because the woman did believe that this man was Brad Pitt without having ever met him or seen him in person. So yeah, she did still somehow believe this. Now, look, I'm going to say I talked about this a little bit more in my other radio show I do actually on KUGR on Thursdays from 5 to 7. So, and I will say on that one, maybe if anyone listened to that there, which is probably unlikely, people who listen to that there are listening to this show now. But if they did, I was a bit cruel about it then, or not cruel because I still was, of course, not supportive of the scammers. I mean, who would be? It's a horrible thing to do, but making fun of the situation a bit more. And of course, like that's kind of an inevitable thing, I feel like. But talking about it without doing that is possible. I'm going to try to talk about this in a more professional way this time. So, according to E News, this began when Anne, which is the name of the woman, the 53-year-old French woman, she was first contacted in February 2023 by someone who was claiming they were Brad's mom. And they started speaking online until the fake Brad ended up messaging her and saying he was interested in her. So I don't know how they decided when the time was right, and I don't know how this woman believed that Brad Pitt's mom knew who she was, but that just kind of happened. But anyway, according to E News as well, which is like my main source here, Anna said apparently, "quote At first I said to myself that it was fake, that it's ridiculous, but I'm not used to social media, and I didn't really understand what was happening to me." Yeah, I mean, have you like lived under a rock for 53 years? I mean, how could you possibly fall for something like this? Because these sorts of scams have happened before social media in terms of tricking old people into believing things like over the phone when they make people believe their social security payments are going to be revoked or whatever, or else they have to pay some sum of money to some address for the government and like back taxes or whatever. They existed before the internet, and you still fell for them here. I mean, come on, lady. Especially because it was Brad Pitt. I mean, in what universe is Brad Pitt just messaging random people out of nowhere? But whatever. Again, I'm going on too long at the beginning. Let's move things along here. But anyway, also according to E News, the fake Brad started asking for money eventually, claiming Angelina Jolie locked him out of their bank accounts and he needed a loan for cancer treatments. I mean, even in the midst of a divorce and in the circumstances that he was locked out of his bank account, in what universe does Brad Pitt need money? I mean, if anything, you should be asking for him for money, whether you need it or not. I mean, if you're going out with Brad Pitt, I mean, the dude's worth hundreds of millions. I mean, you should be asking him for money. You don't need whether you need it or not. Just ask for money. But of course, that's not what she did, which I guess speaks well to her character that she didn't just try hitting him up for money. But yeah, that's what he decided to start trying, which shouldn't be surprising because that's what these scams are all about, just money. I feel like that's kind of the first point you should have suspected it was a scam, that he needs money. But anyway, when she was on a French TV show, Anne showed that there was proof in quotes to this whole thing, and she didn't just fall for it out of nowhere. There was proof that Brad was fighting cancer, and that there were a bunch of photos that were AI generated that this Brad sent to her to prove that he was seriously going through cancer treatment. Now, I looked at them myself, and yeah, even being an older person, I really don't see how he could fall for that. And I mean, I keep saying that, but no, she wasn't. She wasn't even old. She was 53. I mean, she wasn't even old enough to get Social Security. Well, I don't know what France's laws about that are, but she like barely. She doesn't have the right to be using "she's old" as an excuse. All right, like if you're in your 50s now, you're probably what, in your 20s when the internet was created. You should know how this works because pretty much the two thing when some new I've noticed that when some new product is invented or some new technology, there are basically two main tracks of thinking that humans go on. The first things they think are, one, how do you get porn on it? I mean, that's just being realistic here. And two, how do you use it to start scamming people out of their money? And the internet accomplished both of those things fairly quickly. So there's no excuse here, Colin. Well, anyway, according to the New York Post, which I know isn't the best source, not the most trustworthy source, but whatever. I mean, I'm just using what I can get here. She received a fake message from a doctor who said Brad was on his deathbed. Man, I mean, that would have been a good idea to like abandon this whole thing when you see that. I mean, if Brad Pitt was dying, you just think this would be the first time you heard about it. You didn't think there'd be more press about it anywhere. I mean, you should have just looked up Brad. You should have, the second he announced he had cancer, you should have just looked up Brad Pitt on Google and seen if there was any news about him having cancer or Brad Pitt cancer or something like that. But no, you didn't think to do that, did you? Well, that's that's kind of how you end up in these types of situations. But no, I guess she didn't think that there would be news about Brad Pitt dying beforehand. So, whatever. Well, anyway, again, according to E! News, Anne only realized she had been tricked last summer when she saw Brad was in a relationship with Ines de Ramon. I don't know if that's how you say her name correctly, but that's what it is. And over the time she was in communication with the fake Brad, she had sent him over $850,000. I mean, really, with that much money, maybe you should give him the money. I don't know. I mean, you clearly have money to burn if you're going to send him that much to a man who you never met in real life, and it seems you had no plans to if you've been going out with him for what, over a year on the internet, and you still never met him. I mean, of course, that is no. I mean, I'm being facetious there. Of course, you shouldn't send him the money, and the scammer should be thrown in jail when they find him. But $850,000. First of all, Brad Pitt needed that much money in your mind, and second, he needed that much money, and he, at the same time, you were able to send him that much. I know it was in increments, but still, $850,000. And I did read another article. I could be wrong, but I believe that she had also been just out of a divorce with a millionaire, I believe, in France, or at least someone who was relatively wealthy, which is how she got a lot of this money. And yeah, I know $850,000, pretty much no matter who you are, is a lot of money, except for Brad Pitt, ironically enough. But still, I mean, I guess that explains how she had that much money, but that's still a ridiculous amount of money to give to something like this. So anyway, again, according to the New York Post, the fake Brad eventually sent her a marriage proposal. I mean, that's ballsy, man, to send a marriage proposal to a woman you've never met. But it takes a real stupid person to accept that. And I don't actually know if she did. She may not have. So I'm not calling the woman stupid. I mean, she's clearly made a lot of dumb decisions here. But I'm not calling her stupid necessarily because I haven't actually seen if she accepted or not. Whether or not she did, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But even if she did, I don't like. What was he planning on doing? The guy was going to dress up like Brad Pitt and go over there. Like at that point, it feels like you would have had to have made some sort of physical appearance. Although I guess I don't know. She was going out with him for this long without having ever done so. So maybe it wouldn't be necessary. Maybe they would have gotten married over a Zoom call or something. And anyway, again, according to the New York Post, Anne's daughter told her she was probably being scammed, but she didn't believe it. And okay, again, I definitely have sympathy for her. She lost a huge amount of money, and I hope she gets it back. But it's hard for me to have that much sympathy in these kind of situations when, I mean, someone plants the idea in your head, it could be fake. She thought herself it could be fake, and then you don't accept it, and you, like, from that point on, you just keep doing it when the whole world is probably telling you, like, I'm assuming her daughter's the only person she told about this, and she tells her, no, this is wrong. You need to get out of this. This is a scam. And she doesn't listen. I don't know. And then also she apparently said to the daughter, quote, you'll see when he's here in person. Then you'll say sorry. Well, I mean, it looks like you're the one who has to say sorry, lady, to your daughter for seems like the smartest person in this cast of characters blowing her off like that. And that is kind of, again, I feel bad for her. I mean, I know it doesn't seem like it in the way I'm talking about. I do feel bad for her for losing all that money, but that's a really douchey thing to say to your daughter who's just trying to help, that she's going to be sorry for doubting. I'm sorry that she had a inkling of doubt that you were going to get married to Brad Pitt when you never met him. I mean, again, there are some situations where you need to say the synopsize, that's not a word, but sum up the situation to yourself, say it, and then think about, does that still make any sense at all? Well, if you say that and realize that, and don't realize that it makes no sense, and this is some huge scam rip-off job, then you're just completely lost it. Now, I will say, going a little bit into, this isn't something, I took a lot of notes about it. This is something I only saw just recently, so I don't have a lot of info on. But from what I understand, the real Brad Pitt actually apparently knows about the situation and is sympathetic to her. I don't know if he's going to send her any money. I mean, I would assume he would. That would be the gentlemanly thing to do. And come on, I mean, I'm sure it's $850,000 to help her out here. I mean, he should. Frankly, I mean, even though I made fun of this woman, he should send her the money back. That'd be nice. Although I don't know, maybe it's another guy online saying he's Brad Pitt telling her he's sorry, and he'll send her the $850,000, but he needs an advance of $1,000 for a really high quality envelope or something to send it in. I mean, that would be a bit interesting. That would be an interesting follow up. I'd like to hear about that. But like I said, I mean, I do feel sad for Anne. There's a really sad situation, and especially when you lose that much money. And had she not found out about Brad Pitt's girlfriend, it would have probably kept going on. But it's like, I feel sad for her because that's a human emotion to feel just when someone gets screwed over this badly. But you really have to look at what happened at a certain point and acknowledge that what basically happened is she left her car running and the door unlocked and then got mad when somebody stole it. I mean, I feel sorry for her, and that there's a certain amount of inherent, sorrow I'll feel for anyone in that sort of situation. But maybe at that point you kind of need to look at yourself and see why this happened, and because that's the only way you're going to change from the future. Because if not, then I hate to tell you, but when Leonardo DiCaprio starts messaging you saying he needs money, you're gonna fall for that too.